I'm back. I know I was supposed to do a video last week, but stuff came up again. So before, well, I just figured we can get into this. I'm not gonna give you any detail about what went down because it's personal. But I just figured we get into this. Today's review is the 1986 classic, The Labyrinth, made by Jim Henson, George Lucas, and starring the 80s rock idol, David Bowie. Rest in peace. Well, basically, it's a modern-day take on every freaking fairy tale known to man and several known to women. You know, pays homage to all of them, like Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, etc. Basically, it starts off that there's this David Bowie serenading. Starts off with David Bowie just singing to us one of his most awesome songs, and with a very weird computerized owl flying around, and then suddenly the owl flies into a park and lands on some kind of stone or something, while Sarah, played by Jennifer Connelly, is rehearsing lines from a play. I don't know if she wrote it herself or it's one that she's had for years. It's called, for a while. It's called The Labyrinth, of course, and she's having trouble recalling a line. And all of a sudden, of course, we think that she's entertaining. When it first starts off, it sounds like she's entertaining a couple of people. No, it's just her imagination, the owl, and her dog Merlin. And as she's doing this, the clock chimes. Mr. Cinderella right there, and it's revealed that she's late for something, so she's rushing, and it starts raining, and then suddenly we get some more songs of David Bowie. And of course, she makes it, but she's still late. She's like an hour late, and her dog are covered, like drenched in water, drenched in rain. And she's apologized. As she comes, her stepmother or mother, I don't know what she is. It is implied she's a stepmother. Is basically like looking at her like, really? You promised you were gonna be home. And of course, Sarah is basically apologizing like crazy, and she's like, okay, fine, get in here. Don't stand on the rain. Don't get all droopy on me. Just get in here, dry off, and then like as she's about to come in with the dog, she says, not him. Like, but it's raining. It's like, we'll put him in the garage. So she puts him in the garage. She comes in. Her and her stepmother, her and her mother, because I'm not really sure if it's her stepmother or not, because I'm going by the movie, not any other material. But anyway, her and her mother have a little argument, which is ironic because the mother is being polite, while Sarah is being a brat, a teenager being a brat. And all the mother says is, you're late, and I would have understood if you would have kept me in the loop, at least call, let me know you're gonna be late, or let me find some way to keep me informed. If you have any plans, so we can change ours, we can meet each other halfway. And I was just like, well, you never asked me anything, and it's none of your business. And they start fighting. She starts fighting with her, and they argue. And she's like, and then suddenly the dad comes in. He's like, oh, you had us worried, sweetheart. And she's like, I can't do anything right. Y'all hate me. Y'all can't stand me. Oh, this is so mean. I hate this place. And she goes in her room. Of course, the mom's like, why did she treat me so badly? All I try and do is be there for her and care for her. It's like, oh, don't worry, I'll talk to her. So he goes up, and as he's going up, we get a view of her room, which is filled with a bunch of fairy tale stuff. Basically mapping out the whole entire movie in her room. along with homages to Where the Wild Things Are, Alice in Wonderland, etc., etc., etc. Um, and her dad knocks on the door and says, hey, can we talk? And she's like, you better hurry. You're gonna be late for your date. And he's like, look, listen, we fed your brother. We put him to bed. We're about to leave, and we'll be back by midnight. And of course, she goes to her pillow and she starts throwing a dramatic tantrum because of the whole situation. She feels it's unfair, and then she notices that one of her little toys is missing. Yes, she's a teenager and she still has toys. I'm not one to judge. I myself collected Marvel DC things, so don't judge me. Um, I'm not one to judge. And so she notices that she notices that one of her bears is missing, her favorite one. So she goes and looks for it. She finds it in the parents' room next to the baby's crib, and she starts throwing a fit, saying how much she hates the baby and that she wishes that she could leave the whole situation. And she's like, "What do you want? You want a story?" And then she basically the whole story, because I think it's just that the baby is trying to get used to the fact that the parents are gone, and he's feeling her negative energy that she doesn't like him. But why would you have a problem with a child? It's a baby, and she's a grown young lady. Act it. I mean, I know I have my own moments as well, but still, come on, that's a baby. Well, anyway, she's trying to cool his cry hole by telling him a story, her story, their story, and her point of view. Saying that once upon a time there were these parents that were very unfair to their daughter and dumped a baby on her that she had to babysit while they went out partying and having fun. But she runs into a mysterious man known as the Goblin King, who cared for her deeply and granted her every whim. All she had to do was ask. And then as soon as she does this, she begins to have an audience. These little weird creatures in another dimension are listening as she's telling the story. And during all this, we are getting interrupted by these creatures like, ooh, she's gonna say it, she's gonna say it, she's gonna say it. And then, like, quiet everyone, she's gonna say it, she's gonna say it. Of course, she does, but she does, in their mind, in their opinion, she does it the wrong way. And they're like, where the heck did she learn that? It doesn't even start with I wish. And she's about to say it the right way. It's like, finally, she's gonna say it, she's gonna say it. Shh, she's gonna say it. And of course, she changes her mind, and she's like, I really want to know what to say to make them take you. And one of them responds, you could say I wish, hello. And of course, she's had enough. She just lays him down, and he's gonna go right to sleep while crying. And she shuts the door, shuts the light off, and says, I really wish they would come get you right now. And as soon as she leaves for just like a couple seconds or so, it starts getting dead silent, quiet, and freaks her out. So she goes back in to check on her little brother. It's quiet, very quiet, eerie quiet, and she's like, are you there? Are you alive? Why do I not hear crying? And the lights won't work. It's eerie, ominously raining hard, still ugly, and there's movement in the crib. And movement and noise going around the room. She checks the crib, no baby. A lot of weird things are happening. Little creatures that we can see, but she doesn't notice they're too quick, are popping up everywhere, disappearing, coming back, and suddenly the window bursts open, and in pops David Bowie. But in this movie, he's referred to as Jared, and she's like, "You're him. You're the Goblin King. Please, give me my brother back. Please." And he's like, "You just wished I'd take him away. Why do you want him back?" She's like, "But he's my brother." He's like, "Come on, where is he? He's like, "You know where I got him. You know where he is. He's fine. Don't worry about it. Just worry about yourself. Go have fun. That's what you want anyway." She's like, "No, I want my brother. He's like, "How about I give you this instead?" And he, like, ironically, a glass bubble, which I've heard is called a fushigi, but he refers to it as a crystal. and he offers it to her, and he's like, look, if you do it this way, this happens. And he starts doing these movements with it, showing pictures and things. And she's like, he's like, just forget the baby and you can have this. And she's like, I can't, he's my brother, you don't understand, he's my family. And suddenly he lifts up his hand, the thing turns into a serpent, and he's like, you really don't want to come against me. And he tosses the thing on her, she knocks it to the floor, turns into a weird little creature, and runs away while the rest of them pop up and start laughing. And he goes, you know you can't come against me, I'm too powerful. And she's like, but I have to have my brother back, please. And he's like, okay, well, he's there in my castle. And she goes, and he's like, okay, you see that? And it's a clock, and he's like, you have 13 hours to solve my labyrinth before your baby brother becomes mine forever. And it's just like, it doesn't seem that hard or far. He's like, you have no idea, and time's short, so you better hurry. And he disappears, and she heads down the path to the maze. And first person she runs into is I don't know if he's a gnome or a dwarf or something, named Hoggle, and he's basically draining the lizard, which is ironic. And she's like, pardon me, sir. And he's like, oh, excuse me. Oh, you. What do you want? She's like, I gotta get in here. How do I get in? And he just basically being kind of rude to her, and counting as he exterminates pixies. And she's like, why are you destroying the pixies? And he's just ignoring her and picking them up. And as he's ignoring her, she's picking them up to help it up and save it, but it bites her. And she's like, the thing just bit me. He's like, well, what do you expect fairies do? And she's like, grant wishes? He's like, yeah, so much you know. So basically, they're basically the mosquitoes of the labyrinth. And he's counting as he's knocking them out. And she's like, that's horrible. And he's like, no, my name's Hoggle. What's your name? And she's like, I'm Sarah. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know who you are. And she's like, well, how do I get in here? It's like, in where? It's like, in there, in the labyrinth. And he's like, It's like, why are you being so rude? He's like, you haven't asked me the right question. And she's like, okay, well, how do I get into the labyrinth? And he's like, that's what I was waiting for. You get in that way. And suddenly these doors open, and she walks in, and he's like, you're really gonna go in there, aren't you? And she's like, I have to, I have no choice. And she goes in. He pops up behind her, kind of scaring her. And he's like, okay, where are you going, left or right? And she's like, they both look the same, what's the difference? She's like, I really don't know. She's like, well, what way would you choose? I'm like, he's like, neither. And she's like, what? If that's all the help you're gonna be, you can just leave. He's like, yeah, you just take too many things for granted. It's like, just think of it this way: if you even get to the center, you ain't gonna get out of here. And she's like, well, thanks for nothing, Hogwarts. He's like, my name's Hoggle, and don't say I didn't warn you. And he shuts the door angrily, and she starts walking around into an endless straight line, and then basically gives up, runs into, I don't know if he's a worm or a caterpillar, because when she meets him, he tells her hello. She's like, you said hello? He's like, no, I said hello, but you're close. And he's like, why don't you come in? We'll have some tea. She's like, but there's no opening. I don't know. This thing comes on and on. And he's like, yeah, there is. You just haven't noticed them. She's like, okay. And you're warm, aren't you? He's like, yeah. And why don't you just come in? We'll have some tea. He's like, but I don't see a door. And she's like, it's right there in front of you. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, this place is magic. You just have to, you can't always take everything too seriously. And of course, she finally realizes there's an entrance out of that area to another area. And she's like, thank you, that was nice of you, thank you, I appreciate it. He's like, yeah, one tidbit though, don't go that way, you gotta go that way. She's just like, what? He's like, yeah, never go this way, because, and then she decides to take his advice, and he's like, oh, poor little deluded girl, if she would have kept on going the other way, she would have gone straight to that castle. And of course, she ends up in the maze, and there's a bunch of wrong directions, this way, that, going around telling her where to go. And she's trying to figure it out and making markings. Of course, the little things that live in the labyrinth are moving around and messing her up. And while this is going on, she thinks her brother is in danger, but he's just being a baby, crying. And of course, the goblins don't know what to do with him because he's a baby. And but you'd expect it because they're goblins. That's their job. They abduct kids. And of course, David Bowie's getting ticked off. Well, not ticked off. He's getting annoyed because, not because of the baby, mostly because of he's wondering if Sarah's gonna be able to beat this thing and succeed. And so, and then he decides, I'm gonna entertain the baby. So he starts singing with his creatures. It's one of my favorite songs in the movie. And as he's singing, the baby's enjoying it. He's having fun. He's dancing with the creatures, and of course, Sarah's going through the labyrinth, still trying to figure it out. And as she's doing it, Goblin King picks up the baby. He's like, "Ooh, in 9 hours and 23 minutes, you're mine! Yay, yay!" And everyone's all happy, and they're just dancing with the baby, playing with him, singing, dancing, and then. Like, we go back to Sarah, and she finally realizes that that someone's messing with her stuff, her directions that she's setting in the labyrinth with her lipstick or her marker or whatever, and it annoys her. And then suddenly the labyrinth changes, and it's sort of well, I say two because there's technically four, but these groups of men, two sets guarding each door, making jokes and being funny. And she's like, "Wasn't this a dead end?" And they're like, "No, you got that wrong. The dead end's behind you." And then she's like, "Okay, what's going on?" He's like, "You got to pick a door." He's like, "Okay, what's behind the doors?" And he's like, we're not sure, but supposedly one will give you a quick death, and the other one will give you the path to the castle." And they go, "But we have to warn you, one of us is very truthful, and the other one's a false informant." And she decides to question each one of them to find out which one's the truth teller, which one's the liar. And it confuses them, but they're funny about it, and she figures it out, which I don't really know. I think in her mind, she figures it out, and she picks the door with a trap door. The second she walks away, she falls through where all these hands around her. Literally, they're just hands, and she's like, "Help me, help me!" And they form into little faces and start talking. She's like, "Why are you tripping? We are trying to help you." And she's like, "But you're hurting me." And he's like, "Would you like us to let go?" And she falls a little more. They catch her, and it's like, "Come on, make up your mind. Decide. Where do you want to go?" And they're like, "Up or down? We ain't got all day." And then she's like, "Well, since I'm already headed down, just let me go down." And they start laughing, like, "Oh, you're basically gonna regret that." And she's like, wait, I changed my mind." He's like, "Nope, you've already made the choice." So they let her fall all the way down into this secret dungeon that nobody knows about except the Goblin King and Hoggle and all of them watching in his little ball. And he's like, I'm amazed that she's went this far. I thought she would have given up by now." And they're like, "Well, she won't give up. This is her brother." It's like, "Oh, she'll give up, especially when Hoggle leads her all the way back to the beginning." And of course, at this time, the creatures are scared of Bowie, and they started laughing along with him. And of course, he was right. Hoggle shows up, and he tells her, "You're stuck in what they refer to as an oubliette, basically a dungeon to where you're going to stay there until you die, because once you're in here, nobody notices you, nobody pays attention to you." And she's able to basically get him to help her out of there by offering him a trinket, a bracelet made of plastic jewelry. And he agrees. He's like, "I'm going to only take you as far as I'll go, but you're on your own." And he helps her out, and as they're walking, they go through They go through this tunnel filled with a bunch of weird, creepy faces that talk on walls, telling them that they're going on the wrong place. Of course, he tells her, ignore them, they're liars. And he's like, no, we're not, we're truth tellers. And he's like, no, shut up, we know you're lying, but we're doing our job. He's like, well, don't do it to us. And they start walking, and of course, they run into a bag. They follow one of the crystals that belong to David Bowie, and it lands into what at first we think is a goblin beggar's cup. And he's like, ooh, what do we got here? And he's like, nothing. You see nothing. You know nothing. And then boom, pops up David Bowie, and he's like, nothing. Are you sure? Nothing. And he's like, oh my king, your majesty. He's like, oh hello, Edgeworth. He's like, Hoggle, and then like basically messing up his name. He's like, my name's Hoggle. He's like, are you helping her? He's like, helping her? What do you mean, sir? He's like, in the sense that you're leading her towards the castle. And he's like, no, you got it all wrong. I'm tricking her. I'm taking her back to the beginning. She's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And he's like, well, I told her I was gonna help her solve this place as part of trickery, just to help you, sir. And he's like, he looks at him. He's like, what's that around your wrist? He's like, oh, nothing. And he's trying to hide. He's like, if I think for 1 second you are helping her, I'm gonna shove you into the bog of eternal stench, which is basically a really like a skunk swamp. Like one spray and you're stuck for life. No amount of tomato juice is gonna remove that. And he's begging him like, no, please don't. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do that to you. And he goes over to the girl and he's like, how are you? I hope you're having fun with this little mage. And she's like, oh, it's easy. He's like, okay, it's easy. And he speeds up the clock. He's like, okay, you have this much time. And she's like, that's not fair. He's like, you say that a lot. How are you so sure it's fair? And then he goes, okay, you say it's easy. And he basically gives him a detour, which this machine pops up called the cleaner, which basically removes the dust and the cobwebs from the dungeon, and is basically heading towards them like a bull. And they're running and trying to get out of there, and there's no way out. And he's like, and of course Hoggle's like, you really pissed him off. And they're trying to find a way, and they finally hit a wall, and they're able to give enough force that they fall through, and they run into a ladder, and she starts having a discussion. He's like, are you really helping me, or are you gonna really send me to the beginning? And he's like, I just lied to him to avoid the bog, avoid this woman. And she's like, why would you do that? And he's like, you gotta understand my position in this. He's like, what position? He's like, I'm a scaredy cat. I'm a coward, and he scares me. And she's like, that's not a position. He's like, yeah, but that's me, and you gotta understand, that's me. And besides, what choice have you got? I'm your best bet for now. And she's like, yeah, you're right, you make sense. And of course, they come out of and he explains the bog to her that it's basically a skunk swamp. Once you're sprayed, you're stuck. Nothing will get rid of it. And they end up out of a vase into a garden area of the labyrinth. And as they're there, he's like, okay, I'm done, bye. And he's just like, why are you doing this? I thought you were gonna help me. He's like, I told you I'd take you as far as I'm willing to go, and this is it. And so in order to get him to help her more, she steals his jewelry, and he's upset. He's like, that's not fair, give me my stuff back. And she's like, yeah, but nothing ever is fair, so you gotta help me. And right then and there, this two-headed old man walks by, and he basically suffers from narcolepsy, and I think they've been there for ever trying to find the castle, and they're stuck. And his second head is basically a bird of some type on top of his head, and they're basically trying to give her advice, but and she introduces herself and introduces the dwarf as her friend, and they give her very dumb advice, and well, the old man does, and he falls asleep after the advice. And the bird's like, okay, he gave you your advice, you gotta pay up. And she's gonna, but he's like, don't you dare give him my stuff. So she gives him one of her rings, and he's like, okay, thank you, ma'am. And he's like, he didn't tell you nothing, why'd you give him that? And as they leave, The bird says, "Here's the, there goes a couple of suckers, ha ha ha." And right then and there, he looks at the old man. He's like, "Oh, it's so fun being your head." And next thing you know, it goes to Sarah and Hoggle. They're like, he's like, "Why'd you tell him that?" And he's like, "Tell him what?" "That I'm your friend." She's like, "You are. You're not much of one, but you are." And he's like, "I never really had a friend. That's cool." And as soon as he's enjoying himself, they hear a roar, like a very bestial roar, and he gets scared and he runs away. And as she's about to get him back, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna stay here. I'm much better, safer being my own friend. Bye." And she calls him a coward. And she goes, and she's like, "There's nothing bad to this place." So she decides to go towards where the sound is. And as she goes, there's these creatures. I guess they work for the Goblin King, and they're torturing this very big, fuzzy, Bigfoot type of monster named Ludo, with these little impish eaters on a stick. And as they're doing that, he's howling in pain, of course, and it's revealed he has a secret power, which is to bring rocks to him via sound. And he brings them to Sarah's feet, who's trying to find things to throw. So she gets those things, and she chucks them at those little guys, and twisting their helmets around, they get turned around, and they start attacking each other with those little creatures, and they run away. So she goes and she assists him. First he's upset and he's mad. She calms him down, and then she helps him out. And then she introduces herself. He introduces himself, and they become friends. Of course, she asks, does he know how to get to the center of the labyrinth from there? And he's like, "No, I don't." And as he joins, they decide to pursue this quest together. So basically, I think he's more like, she's Dorothy, the dwarf was the Scarecrow, and this guy's I guess the Cowardly Lion or the Tin Man in a way, because the way they act. And then anyway, as they're going, they run across these two doors. One of them has a knocker in his mouth, another one has him stuck in his ears, and she's looking at him like, "Which one do we choose?" And the one with the one stuck in his ears is like, "Yeah, it's very rude to stare, you know." And she's like, "Oh, what? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to decide what door to choose." And he's like, "What'd you say?" And then next thing you know, the other one's like, "It's no good talking to him," but he's mumbling it because he has a thing in his mouth. So she takes it out and she's like, "What were you saying?" And she's like, "Oh," he's like, "Well, thank you for removing that from me. I couldn't speak for a long time." And he's like, "What were you saying?" She's like, "It's no good talking to him. He can't hear you." And they start basically ripping on each other, making fun of each other. Like the one with one in his ears, like, "You're fun conversation starter." He's like, "You can talk. All you do is yell and mumble." He's like, "Yeah, I can't hear you, so who cares?" And she starts asking what's behind her. He's like, "We don't know. We're just the knockers." And she's like, "Well, how do I get through?" And he's like, "Well, just knock on one of us and we'll open, and you go through." And of course, she chooses the one that was talking, but he doesn't want the thing in his mouth. So she holds his nose till he opens his mouth, and she shoves it in, knocks on the thing. They go through. She apologizes. She's like, "Yeah, I'm used to it. People done it before." And they end up in a very spooky forest where it's very quiet. Pluto disappears, and she runs into these weird, funny red monkey looking things. I think they're called Furies. And they start dancing around a fire, playing with their appendages, which they can remove and toss around like juggling balls and circus folk. And they start singing and dancing and doing that. And when they're done, they decide to try and see if Sarah can remove her appendages. They try with her head, it doesn't work, and she's like telling him, "Stop it, leave me alone. Of course my body doesn't do like you." And I was like, "Well, maybe we can help her." And of course she's annoyed by it, so she gets their heads and starts chucking them. And I'm like, "Hey, that's rude. That's not fair. That's not how the game goes. If you do that, then we have to throw your head." So they're chasing her, trying to get to her, and she's like, "Leave me alone." And then leave me alone. And during all this, Hoggle's, of course, Hoggle's gone, and he was gonna go back to help her because she got lost, but he ran into David Bowie, and David Bowie basically made him pee his pants. He freaked him out, and he's like, "Well, she gave me the slip, so I went to go get her and take her back." He's like, "Yeah, from the look of it, it looked like you were gonna help her." It's like, and he's like, "Do you like her or what?" And he's like, she said we were friends." He's like, "Yeah, I don't think a girl's gonna ever love someone as ugly as you." And he's like, "But I make you a deal. She kisses you, I'll turn you into a prince." And he's like, "You will?" He's like, "Yeah, prince of the bog of stench, of smells." And he's like, "Before you go, I want you to give her this, and it's a fruit." And he's like, "It's not gonna hurt her, is it?" He's like, "Well, why do you care?" He's like, "I'm not gonna do nothing to harm her." He's like, "You're gonna give her that, or I'm gonna throw you head first into the swamp. You understand me?" He's like, "Yes, sir." And of course, they she go of course he saves her from those weird looking things. She hugs him and thanks him and kisses him. And he's like, "Stop kissing me!" And suddenly a trap door opens up. They go down and slide straight into the area where the smelly swamp is. So they're like trying to tippy toe on the ledge of the building, and as they're talking, and he's like, "Why do you kiss me?" He's like, "I thought it was rescuing you." And she's like, "No, you kiss me." And like it's just like they're just having their conversation, and as they're having their conversation and walking, they start slipping because the stones they're on are not very sturdy. I guess they can't handle their weight, and they end up falling. Luckily, it's not into the swamp. They land on Pluto, and all he can say is that it smells terrible, and they agree, and they're trying to find a way out of there. And of course, there's a bridge. They're like, "Okay, we're gonna cross this bridge," and that's when they run into Sardinemus, basically the courageous. If the Cowardly Lion had courage and was small in stature, he's a squirrel, and he rides a dog. Basically, looks like her dog Merlin. In there, and he tells him, "You cannot pass." And he's like, "Why can't we pass?" He's like, "Because I said so." And of course they're gonna go, but he's beating them up with his stick or spear or whatever it is. And but luckily, Pluto decides to fight with him and defend everyone and try to help everyone get across. But during all this, Hoggle runs all the way out there, and he goes while Sarah's stuck there with Pluto and fighting with Sardinemus. And it's just so funny how they're fighting. It's hilarious. And then suddenly he's like, "Wow, no one's ever fought me and almost come close to winning. How about we be brothers in arms?" And he's like, and of course Pluto helps him out, and he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then they're like, "Okay." And Sarah's like, "Okay, fine. Y'all guys are friends now. Let's go." He's like, No. You can't go yet." He's like, "Why? You just made friends with him. I thought we could go." It's just like, "I've sworn you can't go." She's like, "Well, tell me, what's your promise?" And he's like, "That no one can cross this bridge unless they ask my permission." She's like, "Well, may we have your permission?" He's like, "Yeah." And as they go, it's so funny because he's like, "Don't worry, this bridge is sound. This bridge is strong." Halfway through, he barely touches it, and it falls into the swamp. And she's holding on by roots because she doesn't want to land in the swamp and stink forever. And as this is happening, the squirrel's trying to figure out how to save her, and he's getting mad at Pluto because all Pluto can do is scream. But his scream summons boulders, which is an awesome talent. And the boulders basically form a stepping stone for her so she wouldn't sink, and a bridge. And it's so funny because as it forms the bridge, they're all running and walking along those rocks, and it makes fart noises. And they get there, and he helps her out, and they start walking. And as they're walking, he's tempted to throw the fruit into the swamp, but the Goblin King's watching. He's like, "Don't even think about it." He's like, "But I can't give it to her. She's my friend." And as they're going, they start getting hungry. So he gives her the fruit, she eats it, and it puts her in like a daze, a drug trip, if you will. And as she's going through the drug trip, she blames Hoggle for it, and Hoggle blames himself and runs away. And she ends up unconscious. She gets knocked out like if she got roofied or something, and then she ends up in like a fantasy within a fantasy where she's picked up by one of the Goblin King's little magic balls and sent into a magical dance hall where she meets a lot of strange people in party masks, old school party masks, and she also runs into the Goblin King, and they start sharing a dance, and he's serenading her. And as this is going on, she has no idea how long time is going, and it's speeding up and speeding up. She realizes, hey, I gotta get out of here. I don't have much time. And she breaks the ball, and she falls, and she lands into a junk area. And as she's in the junk area, she has no idea that Hoggle is a few piles over, moping because he betrayed his only friend. And as she's getting up from the pile, she runs across this pack rat of a creature. I have no idea what she goes by, but she's an old hag and a pack rat. She collects a lot of junk. And she tells her, why don't you look where you're going? And she's like, I was looking. It's like, but I don't know where I'm going. It's like, how can you not know where you're going? You have to know where you're going, and what you're looking for too. And so she's like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I just know I'm looking for something. And she hands her own bear. And she's like, thank you. And she's like, well, that's what you're looking for, right? And he's like, yes. He's like, why don't you come in here and see if there's anything else you like? And boom, she opens these little curtains, and she's back home in her room. And she thinks, maybe I was dreaming it all. Let's go see if her parents are back. And she opens it up. In comes the old pack rat lady. And she's like, it's better to be in here than out there. It's a lot nicer. And she starts giving her all her stuff, all her toys, piling up on her. And Sarah starts turning kind of like into a human version of that crone. And as this is happening, she runs across the book, the Labyrinth book, and she starts reading it. And it starts coming back. And as it's coming back, the old hag lady's like, don't you like your stuff? Don't you like your toys? And she's like, it's all junk. What do you want from me? And he's like, but what about this? This pretty little thing don't look like junk, does it? And she's like, yeah, it is, and I have to save my brother. So she's like tearing down these. She's like helping me, like, because the room's starting to tear itself down for some reason. And so she helps it tear down more. And she starts climbing up. She's like, I gotta save my brother. And of course, Bluto and Sir Dynamis are there, and they help her. And they're like, we're finally here. We're glad you're safe, but we're finally here. Look, those are the gates to the Goblin City. And they go, of course. The squirrel's getting all excited. He's like, come on, I'll kick y'all's butts. Come on. And she's like, you need to stay quiet. She's like, for you, anything, but I'm not a coward. She's like, no. Like, and I smell good, right? And she's like, yes. And he's like, and I'll fight anyone. I'll beat the crap out of him and all this. And she's like, yes. Now please be quiet. She's like, why do we have to be quiet? It's only a Goblin City. She's like, yeah, there's trouble. And this big megazord of a mechanical monster pops up and starts fighting with them with a big axe, and they're saved by Hoggle, who throws the pilot out of the head of the machine, and it's just a little creature. And of course Hoggle blows it up, messes it up, and he basically repents before Sarah, saying that he's sorry. Well, he doesn't say he's sorry, but he says, like, he made me give that to you. I told you I'm a coward, and I don't care what you think, and it's okay if you don't want to be my friend. But all of them forgive him, and they basically tell him that they love him. He's an honest man, a good man, and they're all his friends. So they decide, okay, we're gonna go save your brother, kick some butt. Come on, let's do it. And then as they go in, of course, as they go in, they're spotted by one of David Bowie's little henchmen, and he warns him, hey, remember that girl you drugged, and she forgot everything? It's like, yeah, what's up? It's like, she's already here. It's like, no, you're lying. It's like, I'm not lying. They're on their way to the castle already. It's like, you guys need to stop her. All of you, get out, go fight, and you put the baby in a safe place. We gotta stop her. And when they're about to climb the steps, they are stopped by a horde of little goblins with a bunch of weapons, from swords to guns to cannons to everything, basically. And it makes me wonder what time period is this place in. And it's just so funny because they're running and they're trying to duck all these people, and they're hiding in a house, and so as they're hiding, they realize, hey, why not get Doodle to call his rock friends? So he does, and it's basically a war between the goblins and the rocks. And of course David Bowie's all freaked out. He's shocked about, like, hey, he's basically thinking, that's not fair. They got rocks. All we got are swords, machine guns, and cannons. What the hell? And it's just so funny, that whole scene, because all of them are getting crushed, smashed, and basically pummeled by stone. And of course, they make it through the doors of the castle with minutes to spare. Of course, Sarah's like, I gotta do this alone, guys. They're like, yeah, but we're friends. We're here for you. We're gonna help you. And it's like, yeah, but I have to do this alone. You gotta understand. It's like, okay, fine. If that's what you gotta do, then do it. But if you need us, we're here for you. And she's like, okay, I'll call you. And of course, she ends up in silly language, crazy stairs. It's basically it looks like one of those abstract paintings things where the stairs are up, down, side to side, everywhere, and you have to walk along the walls, etc., etc. And she's basically got to solve the puzzle while trying to basically solve the puzzle, save her brother, and avoid David Bowie. And he's basically singing, like, I did all this for you. I've never done this for anyone else. I care for you so much, and you broke my heart, basically. And I'm like, throughout this whole thing, it was like, how the heck could you love her? You barely even know her, and you look like you could be millions of years old. Hello, Chris Hansen. and basically, by the skin of her teeth, she's able to save her brother, mostly by confessing that, resisting David Bowie's seduction and charms, because he's basically telling her, look, if you do what I say, if you love me, you adore me, I'll give you anything you want. I'll bow at your feet. And she just realizes, she just starts saying things from her book, and he's stopping her and telling her again, come on, love me, be there for me, and I'll be there for you. And then she's like struggling with the one line that she's been trying to get for throughout this whole movie, and she finally gets it, which destroys David Bowie and banishes him from her life, and everything goes back to normal. Of course, midnight time, she wakes up in the living on the floor by the stairs with David, with the bird, with the owl flying around her and going out the window. And then as she wakes up, she's like, oh my God, my brother. And she runs up to go check on him, and of course he's asleep. And she's like, of course she's willing to let go of her childhood. She gives the baby the bear, and she goes back to her room, packs up all her kid stuff. And as she's packing it up, her parents come home and is like, are you home? We're home. She's like, yeah, I'm up here. And of course, slowly, all the creatures from her adventure pop up, and they're like, if you ever need us, we got your back. Just call us for anything. And she's like, I need you guys. And like, serious? Like, I don't know why, but very often, sometimes I do. I feel like I need to have moments where I can be a kid again. I can experience that innocence. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, you should have asked us in the first place. And they all show up in her room, and they have a party, and she's hugging them and you know, happy to see them, while all of them are like playing with games and playing with stuff. And of course, as this is going on, the owl, which is also representative of David Bowie, is watching outside and ends up flying away. Like, okay, she passed the test. I'm out of here. I can't be here anymore. She beat me. And as this is going on, we start hearing David Bowie's serenading us again at the end, and that's how the movie goes. And in my opinion, like the Dark Crystal, classic, very awesome. I love how, the character goes through the change of, it's basically about growing up, willing to put away childish things and achieve that moment of adulthood, but at the same time keeping your purity, keeping your innocence. And no, I'm not trying to make that a dirty joke, but that's what basically it is. And I like it. It's one of my favorites. I could watch it almost every day. It was one that me and my brother had we both love that movie. It was one of our favorites, and we love to watch it all the time. And I gotta say, the music, great. David Bowie's an awesome singer, and he basically wrote and sang every song in this movie, and he did a good job. The choreography was great, even for puppets. The Jim Henson Company did a great job. The filming, the editing, everything was just done awesome. Frank Oz, all of them, they did great. That was a good movie. That was an awesome movie. Everything. It was just so cool. And, it's one of the best movies out there. And I always say a lot of movies are good, but this one is one of the best ones. It's like right up there with Dark Crystal. I have a bunch of other favorites, but like it's right up there. It's like one of my favorites. I'm surprised that a sequel was not made. Sequel as in movie, but there was. I did find out a long time ago that there was a sequel made. Continued where the movie left off, but in comic book form, called Return to Labyrinth. And that's a whole other story. I'm actually looking into it and trying to find information on it so I can read it, see what it's about. I only know a few tidbits from what I find via YouTube, but it seems interesting, and I want to read the stories. But all in all, the movie's great. It's one of my favorites. I could watch that movie almost every day and never get tired of it. I would change though the fact that one thing that bothers me is that Sarah is supposed to be like 15, 16 years old, and at the beginning she's acting like a brat, like 6-year-old, just because a baby is center of attention. It's a baby, of course it's gonna be center of attention. I mean, come on, it's common sense. Everyone knows that, and she has to be a brat about it. But I understand it's for the growth of her character. Spoiled brat, then grows up, is able to grow up and be more responsible, be an adult. But come on, and I would have loved to see, because I've heard tell that it's the Goblin King watching her and controlling the labyrinth, controlling the movements of the labyrinth. I would have loved to see how he does that and why he does that, when he has time to do that and how it's done. That would have been so cool. There's hints of other creatures around that place. I would have loved to see more, because you only see like little hints of it. Like, what are the other areas of the labyrinth that are not explored? I mean, there's other corners of that land that you've seen in the distance or whatever. And, show more of that. If he's so obsessed with her, why not? Why don't we just see that as well? That could be one thing. Like, see how he's obsessed with her. He becomes more obsessed with her. I think of course, it's revealed if you read the comic book that because she was able to figure out the labyrinth, and she was able to complete it under a good time, and because it's revealed that the labyrinth holds his heart, and whoever completes it won his heart. So that's why he cares for her so much. But they could have hinted more at that. There wasn't any like hint to him actually loving her until like towards the end, when he tells her, like, I did all this because I love you, I did all this for you, but we, like, throughout the movie, you don't really see it. It would have been nice to see it actually happen, and I understand why. That would have been a very good thing to explore if, for example, if it was being either rebooted, which I hope they don't do because it's a classic, but if I was making it, those were the changes I would make. Those are the changes I would make. All in all, a good film. I'd recommend it to anybody who's Like the Dark Crystal, it's a masterpiece. It's got some elements that are a little bit frightening for children, but it's good. It's pretty good. Children and adults. I mean, unless you're one of those people that don't want to traumatize your kid, don't show it to them. But if you grew up watching this treasured classic that pays homage to, Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, etc., I'd say don't deprive your child of this cherished, treasured classic, and put it on, watch it with them, get them involved in the story, because it's a great one. It's awesome, and some movies will always be a treasure, and this is one of them, in my opinion. Props to the Jim Henson Company for making the film, and Frank Oz and all them for doing it. The actors, they were great. Props to them. Props to Jennifer Connelly. That this was one of her first roles. She did great. I think she did great in this role. That's one of the roles I always remember her in. Of course, she's like her husband in Marvel, and she did good. But I always remember her as Labyrinth, as Sarah from the Labyrinth. I always remember her for that. She was part of my childhood, and I give her props for that. And David Bowie, man, that I was not expecting that, because I've heard his music, but when I first saw it, I never expected him to be an actor when I first saw this movie. But he was great, and then I found out that this guy was an awesome person, because he had patience. Not a lot of people have that much patience with people. The technicians that would do the special effects and stuff, especially with the hand when he would mess with the crystal. That wasn't him. That was a stunt guy in behind him with his hand in the sleeve, doing the hand movements with the crystal. And every time the guy, because he couldn't see, would drop the crystal, David Bowie was cool about it, and they pick it up and do it again. It didn't bother him how many times they wanted to make a take. He would do it. It wouldn't bother him. And even the music, when he composed it, he wrote it, composed it, and sang it. He did great. It was great. Even the baby sounds. At first, you think it was real baby. Nope, it was him, and it was awesome. When I found all this out, I was like, whoa, that's just awesome. And all the puppetry and the mechanics that was involved in making this, and the cinematography, the editing, the tricks that were done to make this movie possible, because they didn't really rely on a lot of computerized animation or computerized anything. It was practical effects and some puppetry mechanics, and it was just awesome the way it was made. It was so great. Every detail, learning all this stuff is so awesome. And like the fact that it was based on a book by the same guy who made Where the Wild Things Are. And I did not know this, but thanks to a YouTuber by the name of Minty Comedic Arts, I was able to find out some of this stuff, and it was just so awesome to find this stuff out. And I mean, this movie is just great. I love this movie. It's a classic, and I definitely recommend it to anyone that's into fantasy or trying to get your kids into something cool. Show them this. It's great. I mean, yeah, it's dated now, but still, like they say, a true classic never goes out of style. Like to quote Chucky, a true classic never goes out of style. To quote Jason's statement, you can't beat a classic. This classic will never go out of style. This classic you can never beat. It is a great movie. Like The Dark Crystal, it is up there, and I recommend it to anyone who wants to watch it. Well, anyway, that's my point of view on this movie. You can tell it's one of my favorites because I'm talking up storm about it, even after I'm supposed to cut it off. What are y'all thoughts on the movie? For those who've seen it, do you like it? Did you like it? Is it always part of your childhood? Did you ever watch it? Does it still hold a special place in your heart? Do you share it with your kids? If you were in charge of making this film, what would you do about it? What would you change? What would you tweak? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Were you a fan of David Bowie as an actor? What do you think of the acting? What do you think of the puppetry? What do you think of the whole thing in general? I mean, did you like the actors? Did you know about the actors? What do you think? What was your thoughts? Share them in the comments for me. Put them in the comments. That's what they're there for. And if you want to hear more, hit the subscribe button, click that bell, And you can always drop me a message or put it in the comments. Tell me what movies you want me to check out for you, what movies you want me to review or watch and give my thoughts on. I'd be more than happy to. Again, drop me a message in the comments or in the messenger, or those watching because on other social media, drop me a message. Feel free to tell me what you thought. Leave me thoughts, because I do this because I like movies. It's one of my things. Just and I'm happy to do it. So until next time, peace.